In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 16, Jesus told the story of a manager who lost his job. It's a strange kind of parable. The main point is clear enough, but understanding the details depends on our knowledge of the cultural background.
During the time of Jesus, the olive trees of Judea produced abundant olive oil. But the farmers faced a problem. A crop of olives could not be sold and turned into cash until after the harvest, and in the meantime there were bills to be paid. This gave Jesus the setting for a parable. The story was about a manager whose business it was to lend the farmers money. He was employed by a rich man who wanted to lend money and, of course, to make money. But the law of Moses would not allow them to take interest from another Jew. So the farmer had to sign a note, promising the lender a share of the harvest, equal to the principal plus the interest. It was not quite respectable, and that's why the rich man had employed this manager who would handle the contracts. But today he was angry. "What is this complaint I hear about you? Wasting my money? You've lost your job as manager. Close the books, put the accounts in order, and then bring them to me." The manager faced a hopeless situation. He had nowhere to go and no friends to help him. The man was not physically strong, so to work as a farm laborer was impossible. And in this situation, nobody would employ him again as a manager. He was too proud to beg. Somehow, he must find a way out. For a few hours, he still had control of the business, and he was clever. He could not rob his master, but before he turned in the accounts, he could make some changes. The changes would be perfectly legal, and in fact, most people would be very pleased. The answer was so simple, so obvious. He must act quickly, very quickly. He would stay in the office, and one by one he would send messages to the farmers. Just one at a time, he would ask them to visit him, and he would have a surprise waiting for them. Olive crops were a risky business, so to borrow cash valued at 50 measures of oil, the farmer would have to pay back 100 measures, 2 times what he had borrowed. The olive grower came immediately. He knew there must be a problem, but the manager seemed friendly enough. "How much do you owe my master?" he said. 100 measures of oil." Why was the manager asking a question like this? After all, it was the manager himself who had fixed the amount. "Take your bill and change it. Write 50. It was a free loan. The interest had been removed. The olive grower could hardly believe his good fortune. Why the manager had been so generous to him, he could not imagine. But what he owed the lender had just been cut in half. In a few moments, the document was sealed by the manager, and it was official. The olive grower felt all his worry disappear. Forever he would be grateful, and if there was anything he could do to show his appreciation, he would do it. Another farmer had borrowed money against his next crop of wheat. The interest rate would have been 20%, with perhaps another 5% for price changes on the market. But now the manager wanted to see him. The message was simple. "Come, quickly." No explanation, just the message. Again, the manager started with a question. "How much do you owe my master?" 100 measures of wheat. "Take your bill and write 80. Again, the contract was revised to the benefit of the farmer. The loan must be repaid on time, but with no interest. Now both of these men were in his debt, and the manager would always be welcome to eat dinner. One of them might even offer him a job. And so it went on. By the end of the day, there were a lot of very happy customers, and one very popular manager. What could the master do? The law of Moses said no interest should be charged at all. The manager did his dirty work for him, charging high rates. The master himself had told him to put the accounts in order, and that is precisely what he did. Not in the way the master expected, but exactly according to the law of Moses. Now the whole community was singing the praises of the man who charged no interest, a true son of Abraham. He might not like what the manager had done to him, but he could only admire his quick thinking. So in the end, the master got only what he deserved, and the manager made a few very useful friends. Clever, very clever. The disciples were still chuckling when Jesus turned it on them. Men of the world are more clever among their own kind than the people of light. Make friends for yourselves by worldly wealth, so that when it is gone, you will be received into an everlasting home.
Jesus does not comment on the ethics of the master or his manager. They were men of the world. He says nothing about the rights and wrongs of charging interest. What he does say is this: the manager was clever, and for a short time he had control of a lot of money. When he lost his job, he knew he could not take the money with him, so he used it while he could to make friends for himself. During this life, we too have control of a limited amount of money. When we die, we cannot take it with us. So while we have it, we need to use it wisely. Now, this does not mean that we can buy our way into heaven. It simply means this: our opportunity for doing good in this life is very short, but we can use what we have to be a blessing to other people. And in the future, that blessing will come back to us. Obeying God and doing what we can to help others is beyond value. Well, that's obvious. And yet some of us seem to ignore it. If we behaved in business the way we behave towards God, some of us might be bankrupt tomorrow morning. I know, the parables of Jesus were sometimes disturbing, and they have power to disturb us today. But that is exactly what Jesus intended. Thank you for being with us for this series on the parables. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please join us again in our next series, which we will call The Path of Jesus. It's number 4 in the series. God bless you.